there's this beach on the coast of Oregon called Pacific City Beach. And a number of years ago, we took our family there and we drive up onto the beach and we're playing there by the water. And we look over to our right and there's this massive just mountain of sand, this giant sand dune. And as we looked closely, we could see that people were climbing the sand dune. So my daughter, who's about 7 at the time, my son, who's about 4 at the time, they look at me and they're like, "Dad, can we go climb the sand dune?" And I look at, my wife like, "Is this okay?" She gives the nod of approval and I'm like, "Yeah, let's go do it." And so little did I know what I was getting myself into at the time. I thought, yeah, all these other people are climbing it. This should be easy. This will be a piece of cake. And we were, probably 500-600 yards away from the sand dune at the time. And it seems like every time we'd get a little bit closer, it's like the sand dune just grew a little bit taller. I think it physically just grew. I mean, it was probably, maybe like 200 feet tall. And then we got a little bit closer and now it's like 1,000 feet tall. At least it seemed that way. It just seemed to continue to grow and grow and grow as we got closer to it. We get to the bottom of the sand dune and I'm like, I told the kids we were doing this, so here we go. We start climbing and a fourth of the way up, my calves are burning, my legs are burning. I'm not in shape at all, at least not in shape enough to do this. My daughter at 7, she just took off. She's like all the way up, came back down, up and down multiple times. My son, on the other hand, about a third of the way up, my legs are already burning. He looks at me and gives me this, holds his hands up, "Daddy, carry me?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, son." So I pick him up, put him on my back, and I'm just trekking as hard as I can, trying to go as fast as I can, but also not too fast to wear myself out. And I'd put him down and let him and rest. I was like, "Hey, can you do it some, bud?" And he'd maybe climb 10 or 15 feet, and then, "You carry me, Daddy." And so I'd put him on my back and climb up. And we finally got to the top of this sand dune. And once we got there, we could see for miles we could see. My perspective on the whole beach that we were on changed. My perspective on what was on the other side of this sand dune changed. We could see for miles. It was stunning. It was gorgeous. Whenever we were far away from that sand dune, it seemed pretty small. The closer we got to it, I realized how big it actually was. A lot of times in our lives, we have problems that we're facing. And whenever we are close to God, we see how big He is. But whenever we're far away from Him and we're close to our problem, we see we have this perception that our problem is huge, it's massive, and it's too big for God. The closer we get to God, the bigger we realize He is, and the smaller we realize our problems are in comparison to Him. The closer we get to God, our perspective on Him begins to shift, begins to change, and we see that the Creator of the universe, who spoke the world into existence, who sent His Son down to this earth to die on a cross, who was born of a virgin, died on the cross and then rose from the dead, conquered death for us. This God is the God that we serve. This God is the God of the impossible. In Matthew chapter 19, Jesus was talking to the disciples. He says, "With man, this is impossible, but with God, everything is possible." Nothing is impossible for God. No matter what problem you're facing, no matter what issue, no matter what struggle you're currently facing, God is bigger. God is greater. God is stronger. There's so many times I try and do it on my own. I don't know, it's something just built inside me. It's like, well, if I can do it on my own, then I'm going to do it on my own. Whether that's doing remodel stuff here at the church, if that's doing things at my house, trying to fix something. Like I'm always, my way of doing things, I'm going to do it as much as I can on my own. And then if I just can't do it, then I might ask for help as like a last resort. And so many times I take that approach with my relationship with God. I try to do it on my own. And my last resort is to ask God for help. The problem with that is when I'm trying to do it on my own, the problems I have, the issues I'm facing, I can't do it. I cannot accomplish them without God. But I'm just trying to do it on my own. When God has put forth this invitation to us, He says, "Come to me. Those who are weary and carry heavy, come to me. I'm going to give you rest." We get rest and we get peace when we realize that God is greater than anything we face, that He is with us every single day, and He wants to work on our behalf. So it's time for us to come closer to him, to see how big he really is, to give our burdens over to him, cast our anxieties onto him, give our worries and our fears to him. Let him take it. Let him deal with it. Put it in his hands and just trust him. I don't know about you, but when I'm trusting God and my faith is high, I'm at peace. I'm at rest. When I'm not trusting God, when my peace is low and my stress is high, there is not an internal rest. There is no internal peace. There's internal turmoil. So even though I know this in my mind, I should trust God. Walking that out doesn't always happen naturally. It takes constant effort saying, okay, God, I trust you today. God, I trust